The cafeteria of Nexus Station hummed with the usual cacophony of 100 different species trying to coexist. Translators chirped, atmospheric regulators hissed, and the air carried the mingled scents of foods that would kill half the diners if cross-contamination occurred. Maya Chen sat alone at her table, methodically working through her meal, a protein pack that would have been considered bland even by military standards. But on a space station where most organic food cost more than a shuttle ticket, she wasn't complaining. Earth had taught her not to be picky. Well, a voice rumbled above her, the universal translator rendering the Krathian speech into standard galactic common. The Deathworlder graces us with her presence. Maya didn't look up. She'd heard it all before in the 3 months since arriving at the station. Deathworlder, barbarian, primitive. The galaxy had a lot of names for humans, none of them particularly flattering. Vexthor loomed over her table, all 7 feet of crystalline carapace and barely contained aggression. The Krathian had made it his personal mission to remind everyone that his species had been exploring the stars for 10,000 years, while humans were still banging rocks together. He had a particular fascination with making Maya's life difficult. You know, Vexthor continued, his mandibles clicking in what his species considered laughter. I've been reading about your world. Class 12 Deathworld. Unstable tectonics, extreme weather, aggressive megafauna, diseases that evolve faster than you can cure them. He leaned closer, his bulk blocking out the overhead lights. How does it feel knowing your entire species evolved in a cosmic dumpster? Maya took another bite of her protein pack. Chewed slowly. Swallowed. Vexthor, she said quietly, still not looking at him. You should walk away now. The Krathian's laughter boomed across the cafeteria. Several nearby species skittered away, recognizing the prelude to violence. Krathians were known throughout the galaxy as warriors, their crystalline bodies naturally armored, their strength enough to bend steel. Or what, little Deathworlder? You'll bore me to death with stories about your gravity and your poisonous atmosphere? He reached down and flicked her tray, sending it skittering across the table. Your species has been in space for barely 50 of your years. My people were building Dyson spheres when your ancestors were still afraid of fire. Maya's hands, which had been resting peacefully on the table, slowly curled into fists. Her instructors at the Terran Defense Academy had been very clear. Humans were to avoid physical confrontation with other species whenever possible. Humans were fragile by galactic standards, their bones breaking easily, their skin offering almost no protection, but Maya's instructors had never met someone from the Detroit sprawl. Last warning, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Walk away. Vexthor grabbed her by the front of her uniform and lifted her out of her seat as easily as a child picking up a toy. His faceted eyes gleamed with amusement as he held her suspended in the air. Make me, he hissed. What happened next would be analyzed by xenobiologists for years to come. Maya didn't struggle against his grip. Instead, she went completely limp for precisely 1 second, long enough for Vexthor's proprioceptors to register her as neutralized. Then she moved. Her right hand snapped up, fingers rigid, and drove into the soft joint where Vexthor's mandible connected to his face. It was one of 3 weak points in the Krathian anatomy that the TDA had catalogued. The strike wouldn't have seemed like much to most species, just a quick jab. But Maya had grown up under 1.2 G. Her muscles, her bones, her entire cardiovascular system had been forged in gravity that would crush most galactic species. Every movement she made carried the weight of a world that had spent 4 billion years trying to kill everything on it. Vexthor's grip loosened instantly as pain receptors he didn't know he had screamed warnings. Maya dropped to her feet, her knees absorbing the impact with practiced ease. I warned you, she said. What followed was less a fight and more an education. Vexthor swung a massive fist, a blow that could have shattered a bulkhead. Maya wasn't there. She'd already moved, her reaction time honed by a childhood spent dodging falling debris during earthquake drills and outrunning flash floods that appeared with 30 seconds warning. She struck again, this time at the neural cluster behind his left primary arm. Another weak point. Another precisely calculated blow. The cafeteria had gone silent. Species that had never even heard of Earth watched as the small human moved like liquid lightning around the Krathian warrior. Vexthor roared and lunged, trying to use his mass to simply crush her. Maya dropped low, far lower than his anatomy allowed him to bend, and swept his legs. On a low-gravity world, the move would have been ineffective. But Maya's muscles had been compressed under Earth's oppressive gravity for 22 years. The force of her sweep was exponentially greater than Vexthor had calculated. He crashed to the floor with a sound like shattering glass. Before he could rise, Maya was on him, one knee pressing into the neural cluster at the base of his neck, the third weak point, with exactly enough pressure to cause paralysis without permanent damage. My world tried to kill me every single day, she said softly, leaning close to his auditory membrane. Hurricanes, earthquakes, viral plagues, predators with teeth like knives. And you know what? I'm still here. My species is still here. We didn't evolve on a death world, Vexthor. We conquered one. She stood up and stepped back, releasing the pressure. Vexthor remained on the floor, his crystalline body trembling. Now walk away, Maya said. Station security arrived 3 minutes later, but by then the cafeteria had already returned to its normal chaos. The other diners had learned a valuable lesson that the rest of the galaxy would slowly come to understand over the next few decades. Deathworlders didn't just survive their planets. They carried those worlds with them wherever they went. In their muscles, their reflexes, their absolute refusal to stay down. Vexthor did walk away eventually. He transferred to another station the following week, citing philosophical differences with the command structure. Maya finished her protein pack in peace. And across the galaxy, in 1,000 cafeterias on 1,000 stations, beings who had dismissed humanity as primitive and fragile began to recalculate their assumptions. Because the humans hadn't just joined the galactic community, they'd brought their death world with them. And that made all the difference.